So it all starts with vision. But from there, once you have that vision, you have to ask yourself, I'm not there yet. So why? Well, you're not there because you're not being the kind of man who is qualified to have the result that you desire. Who do I need to become? What type of man do I need to become? And then once you answer the question, start becoming that person. Every single man listening to this podcast is wanting to improve, wanting to get better, wanting to salvage relationships, wanting to connect with his kids, wanting to get in better shape, wanting to start a business, build a business, or put some money in his bank account. You wouldn't be here on this path of self-development if you didn't have some greater vision for who you are. But often we as men get hung up along the way. We get distracted, we get tempted, we get sidetracked. We fall into vices, we get lazy, we procrastinate, and there's all sorts of problems that come with our natural tendency to be our own worst enemy. And I've got a very simple message for you today, and this one's going to be probably shorter than my other podcast, but it's very important that we wrap our heads around the concept that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to teach you one simple phrase, one simple question that you can ask yourself that will get you on the right path. Too often men are looking for excuses and they let other people stumble them up and trip them up. And the question is very simply this, without further ado: who do I need to become to fill in the blank? Who do I need to become to have that kind of business? Who do I need to become to be that type of father? Who do I need to become to connect with my wife? Who do I need to become to have that physique, or have my debt paid off, or have a bunch of money in the bank, or go on those vacations, or enjoy this type of lifestyle? Now, first, it all starts with vision. In order to answer that question, you have to have some vision of who you want to be. And it is amazing and disturbing how many men I talk with every single day who have no vision about what they want out of life. If you were to ask them, what do you want? They'll say something like, I don't know, a good relationship with my wife, maybe a little money in the bank account, and just kind of a good life. Well, welcome to the club, but that's not real compelling. I don't even know what that means, and I don't think you do either. So does that mean if you make $1 more today than you did yesterday that you've reached your vision? I don't think that's what you're saying. But unless you're clear about what exactly, very, very specific, very, very exact on what you want, you're never going to achieve any measure of greatness. So it all starts with vision. But from there, once you have that vision, you have to ask yourself, I'm not there yet, so why? Well, you're not there because you're not being the kind of man who is qualified to have the result that you desire. Too many men think that they can have the result without the effort. You know, you look around at people that you're motivated and inspired by, and you think, I want to be like that guy. But what too many men fail to do is to bridge the gap between where that man is and the work that he's actually done. Most people think he got lucky. And it's always, always a bad idea to attribute success at any level to luck, even if there was an element of luck to it. Because I'm not going to lie and tell you that there isn't lucky circumstances. There isn't being at the right place at the right time or having some favorable or fortunate events happen to you. That happens. But you could actually create that by being the kind of man that you need to be in order to have the results that you desire. When you attribute another man's success to luck, what you simultaneously do is say to yourself, even subconsciously, I won't have the success and the results that I want in my life until I get lucky. And the problem with that is it's passive, it's weak, and it does not lead to predictable results. If you look at the 500 plus men I've had on the podcast, and they're all successful in their own right, it's not luck. It's a series of deliberate and clear actions that have got them to exactly where they are. And even if they had got lucky at some point in their life, it would not be sustainable if that's all they were relying upon. No, guys, it takes clear, deliberate action and a future vision for who you are and who you want to be. And that's what we call the integrity gap. It's the gap between where you are right now and where you see yourself being. The further that gap is, and also the less work that you're doing to bridge that gap, the more uncomfortable you'll feel about yourself and your performance. I'm not here to tell you that in order to be confident and sure of yourself, you have to have achieved your results. You don't, but you do have to be bridging that gap. You do have to be in integrity. You do have to be laying the foundation of that road that you're going to be able to walk that's going to get you from point A to point B. But again, to go back to my question and the premise of this podcast, who do I need to become? I'm often met with guys who will excuse away their performance and say, I'm not meant for that. A prime example of that might be somebody who wants to run a marathon, for example, and they'll say, well, I'm not a runner. Well, if you tell yourself you're not a runner, then that's accurate. You're not a runner because why? You're not running. Or other men decide, man, I'd really like to write a book, but I'm not a great writer. Well, you're not a great writer because you're not writing. That's it. Take the most successful men in any field and take a look at what they do. We're on the back of the Olympics, and I know there was a lot of controversy and even some vocal criticism coming from me as well regarding the Olympics, but there's no doubt that those Olympians have worked very, very hard, with the exception of maybe one certain breakdancer, but the rest had worked very, very hard to get them to the place that they were. They were actually doing the work required to achieve those results. And what do swimmers do? They swim. What do runners do? They run. What do breakdancers do? I'm saying that a little bit mockingly. The ones who are good, they practice and they breakdance. What do great hunters do? They hunt. I look at somebody like Cam Hanes, who's a previous guest on the podcast. A lot of guys will say, oh man, that guy's so successful at hunting. I'd like to be like him. Oh man, if only. That guy runs a crazy amount of miles every single day, and he shoots his bow every single day. That's why he has the results. If you're not willing to do that, that's okay, but be honest at least about your lack of ability or desire to do it. I fell into this trap years ago where I would compare myself to other notable podcasters, namely guys like Joe Rogan. I want to have his success. But then I actually started to look into what Joe Rogan did on a daily basis and how he traveled and how much he was communicating and how many podcasts he's done over the years that he's been doing it now. I would love to be like that, but I'm not willing to invest to the same degree. And that's okay. That's not an indictment on me. It just means it doesn't align with what I want to create for my life. I have other things that are important that may not be as important to Joe Rogan. And that's fine. I'm not here to decide for him and he's not here to decide for me. But there has to be an honest assessment. So when it comes to determining the kind of man you want to be, you need to ask yourself, what is it that I need to do? And I want you to get a notepad out or your phone out or wherever you need to take notes. And I want you to ask yourself these questions. What does the man I want to be do on a daily basis? What does the man I want to be do on a daily basis? What time does he wake up? What does he eat for breakfast? What does his planning schedule look like? How does he communicate with others? What is he doing throughout the day? When does he take his breaks? Where does he go to eat dinner or lunch? When does he close down his day? At the end of the day, what is he doing at the end of his day to cap it off? And then that time between what he's doing for work and his time at home, what is he doing? How is he engaged with his kids? How is he engaged with his wife? What is he doing in his spare time? What hobbies is he interested in? Now, look, we did a podcast, I think it was either last week or the week before, on this comparison trap. There's ways to be healthy in comparison by looking at what other guys that you want to achieve their results, what they're doing, and then mimic those actions. And there's times where it can be unhealthy. So you need to determine where that is unhealthy. But if you're seeing other people do what you want to do, then you can pretty much do what they do and experience some level of results. And no, it's going to take time as well. So again, the first question is, what are the guys doing that I want to be like? What are they doing on a daily basis? The other thing I would suggest to you is ask yourself, what aren't they doing? Because there's vices that you're familiar with, whether it's drinking or drugs or gambling or pornography addiction or womanizing or procrastination, or name your vice of choice, distraction, laziness, gluttony. Name your vice of choice and ask yourself if the guy that you want to be like, even if it's some fictional character or some character you have made up in your mind, if that's what he would do. I remember years ago, we'd see these guys walking around with the bracelets that had the letters WWJD on them. What would Jesus do? I actually like that because it's a reminder every single day. If men want to be more like Jesus, you look at that and think, what would Jesus do in this situation? If Jesus had to get up and go to work, what time would he set his alarm? If he had to interact with people he didn't like on a daily basis, how would he treat those people? If there was a principle that was being jeopardized or you were being asked to go against your morals and values, what would he do? And I think that's a good daily reminder. So not only what would the man that I want to be do, but also what would the man I want to be not do? Well, he wouldn't drink. He wouldn't sleep in. He wouldn't procrastinate. If there was a conversation, he definitely would have that conversation that needed to be had. He wouldn't get sedated with drugs and alcohol. He wouldn't distract himself. He wouldn't be lazy. He would go all in on the thing that was important to him. And then find a way to make sure that on a daily basis, you're remembered or reminded of how you need to be that person. And I would suggest to you that you need to identify why that's important to you. I talked about Cam Hanes earlier. A lot of you guys are hunters. I'm a hunter. Cam is obviously a hunter. He's significantly better, of course, than I am because of his dedication to the craft. And one of the traps that I fell into is just doing what other people were doing that I was inspired by because I thought that's what, quote unquote, you had to do. If it's not relevant to you, you don't have to do it. I think a man makes up his own mind. I don't think he just kind of waffles to and fro and he lets other people dictate the tone of his life. He makes his own decisions. He's clear and deliberate about it. But if he's chosen a path, then he's going to find ways to move down that path as quickly as he can. So if you want to hunt, what is it that Cam Hanes does? What is it that John Dudley does? What is it that Joe Rogan does? What is it that Jim Shockey does? What is it that these people you want to be like do? And more importantly, maybe not more importantly, but just as importantly, is understanding why. If it's not interesting to you, just don't do it. You don't have to do it just because Joe Rogan does it. You don't have to get up at 4:30 just because Jocko does. You don't have to be an intellectual scholar like Jordan Peterson. Like, those guys are great at what they do, and this is not a knock on anything they do, but you're not like them. I'm not like them. I'm not like Jocko. I'm not like Jordan Peterson. I have the same level of worth, human worth, as a man, but I'm different than them, and they're different than me, and that's great. But ask yourself, why do I want the things that I want? If I want to hunt, why? Is it because Cam does it, or is it because you really see the value in providing for your family? If you want to grow this amazing tech company, is it because, well, Mark Zuckerberg did it, so I must need to do that? Or is it because you have a desire to bring technology and infuse a solution to one of the world's greatest problems into every household in the country? See the difference? Why is it important to you? And when you figure out why it's important to you on the days that you don't feel like doing it, you don't feel like being the man you need to be, you can say to yourself, even though I don't feel it, I'm still going to do it because of fill in your reason there. There's days I don't want to podcast. There's days I don't want to email. There's days I don't want to respond to any of you, frankly. There's days I don't want to put on a show or podcast. Well, I already said that. Or do an event or go to an event. Like, there's times I just don't want to do that. But I do it because I know that's the man I want to be, what he would do. And I know it's aligned with what I have to do in order to achieve my objectives. This is my why. And my why is to reclaim and restore masculinity in myself, in the lives of the men and boys, especially my children around me and the boys that I coach as well, and in the lives of strangers, you, potentially, people who are listening to this podcast who I've never met. And at some point, I hope to, but millions of people I've never met. I am deeply committed to restoring and reclaiming masculinity. And so when I wake up in the morning, that's what goes on in my head. When I want to sleep in, that's not going to serve my kids. I want to be a good father. That's not going to serve my kids. When I don't want to go to the gym, I think to myself, well, how's that going to help me show up as a man? That's what losers do. That's what weak men do. Men that I don't want to be like do. But the men I do want to be like motivate me, inspire me, and keep me on the path. So I think that's a very important question, guys. Like I said, this one's going to be a short one for you today, but if you want to write a book, start a podcast, grow a business, run a marathon, pick up a hobby, learn to hunt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then you have to ask yourself, what kind of man do I need to become? And then do that. That's simple. Do that. Every day, every hour, every minute, wake up knowing that you have a vision, you have a goal, you know what you need to do, you know what you don't need to do, and you know why you're putting forth that effort. If all of us did that, the world would be a better place. You would achieve more results and success in your life, and you certainly would be a lot more fulfilled, as would the people around you. And we do have a responsibility to them as well. All right, guys, that's all I've got. Very short message for you today. But again, ask yourself, who do I need to become? What type of man do I need to become? And then once you answer the question, start becoming that person. And on that note, guys, I do want to say we've got a tremendous resource. If you're wondering about how to become more of an effective man and you want other men in your corner to help you do that, then join our brotherhood. Band with us, unite with us, bond with us in the Iron Council. These are guys who have answered all of the questions I'm sharing with you today. Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Why is that important? And specifically, what is the work that I need to do on a daily basis? And they've all answered those questions, and they know what the answers to those questions are, and they're reviewing them often, and they're living by them every single day. Even though at times we all fall short, they're living them every single day, and they're talking with and conversing and communicating and discussing and debating and having dialogue with other men who have done the exact same thing. This is structure. You could get that on Facebook. You could get that on social media platforms. You can get that at the neighborhood barbecue. But what you won't get is the structure, guidance, and clarity that you need to actually move the needle in the right direction. So if you've been sitting on the fence or you've been wondering about, man, how do I feel like I'm just meant for something more. And I have these conversations with these guys in my neighborhood and it isn't going well and I'm not experiencing the results that I want. Try banding with us because I'll give you a path to run on. And I'll give you the network of men that you need in your corner to achieve the results that you desire. Go to orderaman.com/Iron Council. We open up in 2 days. If you drop your email, I'll send you an email on Sunday personally and say, we're open for enrollment. I want you there. If you have any questions, I'll answer those for you. But again, go to orderaman.com/Iron Council. Guys, that is your assignment and your marching orders. Until then, go out there, take action, be the kind of man you need to be, and let's all get the work that we need to get done. We're relying on ourselves to do this. Other people are relying on us to do this, and we've got to go out there and do the work. All right, guys, we'll be back next week. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.